Hello, I am back with another video. Today's video I am very passionate about, and so I'm really excited to talk about it. So I hope you guys all enjoy this. But today's video is about Disney adults. I recently saw on BuzzFeed an article that was titled, "Disney adults don't care if you hate them, they're having fun anyway." And I thought it was a really amusing article, but I feel like as a personally self-proclaimed Disney adult, it got me thinking about why the Disney adult trope is so divisive and why people have such a strong opinion on Disney adults. So, as always, let's get into it. So for those of you that don't know, the term Disney adult is for adults who enjoy Disney, particularly going to the Disney parks, despite being an adult that does not have children. A lot of people find Disney adults pretty distasteful. I think mainly because the movies and rides are made for children and that a lot of these adults haven't matured or grown up yet in the real world. And that has a lot to unpack, so let's unpack it. For starters, the widely accepted story of Walt Disney's inception of Disneyland is that he was at an amusement park with his children and they were riding on a carousel when he realized there weren't a lot of stimulating fun for adults at these types of carnivals, which fueled the fire to start working on Disneyland, a place where parents would enjoy the parks as much as their children. There are lots of things in the parks that are made for parents and adults in mind, like alcoholic drinks, higher speed rides, and more mature humor in some of the shows. For example, in Walt Disney World, if you watch the Frozen Ever After show versus the Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor show, it's so apparent that the Frozen Ever After show are for children under the age of 6, and that the Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor is directed for adults. The jokes are sarcastic and a little self-deprecating, and they don't hold back to make fun of the audience at all. Whereas the Frozen Ever After has a lot of singing, a lot of over-the-top energy, and a lot of jokes that use absurdity as the punchline. There are foods and rides and shows for everyone of all ages. Just the ones that are typically marketed are the ones for kiddos. I think people who enjoy the stimulation of the parks aren't people who are immature or people who aren't well-traveled. Rather, I find it typically the opposite. More often than not, the Disney adults I have met in real life are those who are extremely hardened in their day-to-day life, whether that be because of work or life or anything for that matter. Being able to go to the park as a form of escapism from the tragedy that is being an adult and having to deal with people and finances and the exploitation of living in a capitalist society. For many adults who grew up in Anaheim or Florida, they went to Disney every year for their birthday or for senior ditch day or any quick celebration. I know for me personally, I used to go there every year for my birthday. And this collection of memories and nostalgia is something that can only be cultivated throughout time. And as life wears you down, it can be nice to return to a place that always reminds you of a time when life was not only simple, but that the mere possibility of anything was endless. That doesn't mean that Disney adults are trapped in the mindset of never growing up or having Peter Pan syndrome. Rather, they cherish being able to return to that time as an adult. They're grateful for that time, not that they haven't grown out of it. I think people also have issue with Disney adults because they seem to, at least in part, promote toxic positivity. As long as I have Disney, my life will be happy. Nothing can go wrong as long as I have Disney. I believe in happily ever after, etc., etc. It's almost as though people believe that Disney adults have bought into the naive mindset of everything will work out in the end as long as you believe. And while that's not true, it certainly doesn't hurt, right? I think it's important to reckon with toxic positivity and allow people to feel their full range of emotions, whether that be upsetness or anger. And I think acknowledging the misfortunes in your life is important for growth. However, acting as though people who have found a little pocket of happiness in Disney doesn't necessarily mean it's their whole life, right? Like, Instagram and social media is inherently artificial in the sense that people typically only share the best parts of their life when they look their best, when happy events are happening to them, etc. And for those who post acting as though they wish they were at Disney, they're currently at Disney, is it really so different from someone posting of their wanderlust or travel experiences? It all falls under the same umbrella of escapism and trying to show off on social media. I think the concept that you can't enjoy Disney if you're childless is probably the one that bothers me the most. I believe that the idea that innocence and hope in the world is something that can only be enjoyed through a child's eyes is arrogant and something that society doesn't want you to know, but I'm about to tell you. The secret to being happier is that you have the right to experience happiness from your own eyes. You don't need a child to see the beauty in the world. You don't need a child as an excuse to seek out activities that bring you joy. Period. Not only this, but I think Disney adults get a bad rep for the lack of social consciousness a monopoly like Disney has. And I don't think all of that is unjustified. Walt Disney is widely criticized by people outside of the Disney adult sphere for his overglamorization of pioneer and frontier life and Western expansion, and does little to reckon with the true historical atrocities that occurred against First Nations and Indigenous folk. I think people who succumb to these idealized versions of what Walt Disney thought America was can unfortunately lead to the erasure of a lot of historical atrocities that occurred across America. Not only this, but it's impossible for a monopoly like Disney to grow as large as it has without some unsavory connections to potentially exploitative people. For more details, go see my recent video on the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. I think a lot of Disney adults take part in that ignorance, or at least make excuses for this type of behavior so that they can cognitive dissonance their way out of reckoning with their own biases and racial prejudices. And I get it. I personally grew up riding Splash Mountain. It was my first roller coaster type ride, and it was one of my most favorite rides at Disneyland, without question. And it's incredibly difficult to not feel defensive over your childhood nostalgia and favorite rides when someone asks you to face the racism and over problematic history of things you grew up and brought you joy. It is almost impossible to not jump to the conclusion of, oh, if you're accusing that ride of being problematic and I enjoy it, then you're calling me problematic. That being said, you can enjoy things while still being critical of them, in part because everything and everyone is problematic, and at a certain point you need to take care of your mental health and gift yourself some happiness and enjoyment in your life. As always, it's really important to just be educated. If you're an adult who's willing to put in the time to unlearn some of the previous biases growing up, and you choose to vote with your dollar on things that you do or don't agree with when it comes to Disney growing and becoming more socially aware, then I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with enjoying a little bit of childhood into your adult years. Just as a final note, I feel as though the idea that Disney adults are any cringier or problematic than your average adult Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter fan is intrinsically sexist. Like, there are Star Wars fans everywhere that have shelves and shelves of Lego starships and lightsaber hilts, and for the most part, people just see them as nerds. They just see them as adults that have a niche hobby that they seem to really enjoy, but it's not necessarily, like, it's not my thing, but hey, if you like it, whatever. But rarely are they deemed super cringy or their hobby being seen as some type of red flag for dating or for being friends with. Same with Potterheads, same with people in Marvel. And I think the main differentiation between the fandoms is that Marvel, Star Wars, and Harry Potter are more gender neutral, whereas Disney is inherently associated with Disney princesses and hyperfemininity. And as always, similarly to hating girls who like chai lattes and Starbucks, where it's just intrinsically hated and seen as uncool for girls to like things and to have basic interests. And I think that's dumb. Just let girls enjoy their lives. Anyway, that'll be it from me. I will link the BuzzFeed article down below if you have interest in reading it. I thought it was really entertaining. But yeah, this was just my opinion on it. Again, as someone who is a self-proclaimed Disney adult, I do feel a little defensive about the labeling, and yeah, I do think it's just always just important to try and educate yourself, try to unlearn the more biased, like racially problematic things that you might have learned as a kid growing up, and trying to do your best while also trying to take care of yourself. So yeah, that'll be it for me. If anyone out there who is a Disney adult enjoyed this video or wanted to be mutuals, I am currently trying to grow my Instagram. My TikTok, my Instagram, everything will be down below. I'd love to become a little bit more a part of a Disney community. I feel like I have found the Star Wars community and I love it, but I can tell that my friends are kind of over me talking about princesses and Mickey ears and stuff like that. So if anyone out there wanted to become a mutual, become friends, drop a comment, send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok, and I will be sure to get back to you. But yeah, that'll be it for me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.